My name is Lucas, I'm 28, and I've been married to Camilla for 3 years now. She's 27, spontaneous, loving, full of energy, sometimes too much energy, especially when she's with her friends. But there's one friend in particular who I've never been able to stand, Juliana. Camilla met Juliana a couple of years ago at her old job. Since then, they've gotten really close. At first, I tried to be polite, friendly even. I thought maybe my first impression was off. But over time, Juliana proved to be exactly what I feared: loud, obnoxious, overbearing, and always inserting herself where she doesn't belong. And I'm not the only one who feels this way. Even people in Camilla's family have commented about how insufferable she is. Juliana acts like she owns every room she walks into. She constantly interrupts people, makes every story about herself, and seems to enjoy stirring the pot. But what bothers me the most is how much influence she has over Camilla. I've seen my wife cancel plans with me because Juliana had a last-minute crisis, or just needed to talk, and Camilla always goes running to her. Always. I've brought it up before, calmly, respectfully. I told Camilla I don't trust Juliana's judgment, especially when it comes to drinking and parties. Camilla usually brushes it off, tells me I'm overreacting, and insists that Juliana means well. So, for the sake of peace, I let it go. But there's a difference between letting something go and pretending it doesn't bother you. The truth is, every time Juliana's around, I feel like I'm one step closer to losing my wife to chaos. That might sound dramatic, but when you've seen how easily someone can influence the person you love, it's hard not to worry. So when Camilla told me she was spending the night at Juliana's this past Saturday, my gut reaction was anything but calm. When Camilla told me her Saturday night plans, I tried to stay neutral. She said Juliana had invited her and 2 other friends for a little girls' night at her apartment. Drinks, music, nothing crazy, or so she claimed. I asked her if they planned to drink, and she admitted they would, but quickly reassured me that she wouldn't go overboard this time. "We'll just have a few glasses of wine, maybe some cocktails," she said, smiling like that was enough to put me at ease. "I'll book a cab and come home before 10, I promise." I didn't believe her. Not entirely. It wasn't the first time she had said those exact words. And every time she said she wouldn't overdo it, she ended up stumbling through the door well past midnight, sick and disoriented. Camilla has this habit. When she's excited and surrounded by friends, she forgets her limits, especially when Juliana's involved. That woman treats every gathering like it's New Year's Eve in Vegas. So I told her I'd come pick her up myself. She paused for a second, clearly not thrilled with the idea. "You don't have to do that, babe. I'll be fine." "No, I want to. I'll be there around 9. That way I know you'll get home safe." She sighed, a little annoyed but didn't argue much. "Fine, but we're just hanging out, nothing wild." I nodded, but something in me tightened. I wasn't trying to control her. I just didn't trust the environment. There's a difference. I know how easily things get out of hand when Juliana's hosting. The music gets louder, the drinks keep pouring, and any sense of reason gets tossed out the window. Camilla can't see it, but I can. And as I watched her leave that evening, all dressed up and excited, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd need to go earlier than planned. Something in my gut told me that trusting her promise might not be enough this time. As soon as Camilla left, I tried to distract myself, watched a movie, scrolled through my phone, even did some cleaning. But nothing really helped. That feeling wouldn't go away. It wasn't just anxiety, it was instinct. A heavy, nagging sense that something was going to go wrong. Camilla isn't a bad person, she's not reckless on purpose. But when she's surrounded by people like Juliana, she becomes someone else. She lets go of her limits, gets caught up in the moment, and suddenly the promises she made earlier don't mean anything. I've seen it happen before. Too many times, actually. One night a few months back, she came home so drunk, she didn't even recognize where she was. She cried, laughed, threw up, and passed out in the span of 15 minutes. I stayed up cleaning after her, worried she might choke in her sleep. And guess who she'd been with? Juliana. That was the night I realized this wasn't just about occasional fun. This was a pattern. So as the clock approached 8, I grabbed my keys. I had originally told her I'd be there at 9, but I couldn't wait another hour. Something told me to go now, not later, now. Driving there, I kept wondering if I was being too much. Was I overstepping? Was I turning into that kind of husband, the one who checks up, who doesn't trust, who can't let his wife live? But then I reminded myself, I trust Camilla. I don't trust the people she surrounds herself with. That's a big difference. I wasn't going to cause a scene. I just wanted to make sure she was okay, to take her home safely before things spiraled. It wasn't about control, it was about care. At least that's what I kept telling myself as I pulled up to Juliana's apartment complex and saw several cars parked outside, music already vibrating through the walls. The moment I stepped into the building, I could hear the chaos. Laughter echoing down the hall, music blasting so loud it made the floor vibrate. As I reached Juliana's door, it swung open suddenly, like they'd been expecting someone else. The smell of alcohol hit me like a wall. Vodka, beer, maybe tequila, all mixed into one nauseating cloud. Inside, it looked like a scene out of a bad college party. Empty bottles on every surface, women dancing in a circle like they were at a club, yelling over each other, some barely able to stand straight. One girl was lying on the kitchen floor, laughing at nothing. Another one was taking selfies with a wine bottle like it was her prom date. And there on the living room couch was Camilla. My wife looked completely out of it. Her eyes were half open, her makeup smudged, her hair a mess. Her legs dangled over the armrest while she clutched a pillow like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. She didn't even notice me walk in. I stood there for a second, stunned. This wasn't a few glasses of wine or a quiet girls' night. This was full-blown drunken mayhem, and Camilla was in the middle of it, completely gone. "Camilla," I said, walking toward her. She looked up, blinked slowly, and then gave me a lazy smile. "Hey," she slurred. "What are you doing here?" "I came to take you home," I told her gently. "You've had enough for tonight." Before she could answer, Juliana appeared from behind me, clearly drunk herself. "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what's this? Party pooper husband showing up early?" I ignored her and turned back to Camilla. "Come on, let's go." Juliana laughed. "She's fine. Just let her stay a bit longer." I didn't reply. I just reached out to help Camilla sit up. That's when the others started noticing me, and the noise shifted. A few of them looked annoyed, others amused. But all I could think was how far gone Camilla looked and how far from harmless this night had really become. I crouched beside Camilla, gently trying to help her sit upright. She leaned against me, heavy and unsteady, mumbling something I couldn't understand. Her breath reeked of alcohol and her skin was warm, too warm. She looked at me with glazed eyes and mumbled, "Just a little longer, babe. We're having fun." I whispered back, "You've had more than enough, let's go home." But before I could lift her up, Juliana stepped between us, her arms crossed. "You don't get to just walk in here and drag her out like she's a child," she snapped. "I'm not dragging anyone," I said, keeping my voice calm. "She's clearly drunk, she needs to rest." "She's with her friends, we're taking care of her," Juliana replied, smirking. "You can wait outside." One of the other girls chimed in, "Yeah, Lucas, relax. She's safe here." I looked around at the mess, bottles everywhere, people barely coherent, the music still blaring. "This is your idea of safe?" I asked, trying not to raise my voice. Camilla, still leaning against me, made a weak protest. 10 more minutes." "Camilla, I'm not trying to ruin anything," I said softly. "But you promised. You said you wouldn't go overboard." She gave me a confused look, like she couldn't remember saying that. That was all I needed to see. "I'm taking her home," I said, more firmly this time. Juliana rolled her eyes. "You're unbelievable. She's an adult. She doesn't need a babysitter." "I'm her husband," I said, standing up and helping Camilla to her feet. "And right now she needs someone sober who gives a damn." That struck a nerve. Juliana stepped in closer, her voice rising. "You're just pissed because you can't control her tonight." I stared at her for a moment. This wasn't just a party anymore. It was a war zone dressed up as a celebration, and I wasn't going to leave my wife in the middle of it. As I steadied Camilla and began guiding her toward the door, Juliana blocked the way. Her face was flushed, her eyes wild with the kind of drunken confidence that makes people think they're invincible. "You're not taking her anywhere," she said, pointing a finger in my face. I kept my voice even. "Move, Juliana." She didn't. Instead, she shoved me, open-palmed, right in the chest. It wasn't hard enough to knock me back, but enough to make a point, enough to spark something in me. I took a breath and stared at her. Every part of me wanted to respond, but I didn't. Not physically, not there, not then. "You're lucky I respect where I am," I said through clenched teeth. "This is your home. That's the only reason I'm walking away right now." "Oh, so now you're threatening me?" she barked. "In front of everyone?" "No," I replied. "I'm setting a boundary. You just put your hands on me in front of witnesses, in your drunken state in your own apartment. I'm walking away now with my wife. But hear me clearly. If you ever show up at my house again, if you ever cross that line, I will not hesitate to call the police. You are not welcome in my home ever again." Juliana's expression shifted. She didn't expect that. Maybe she thought I'd yell or push back. Maybe she wanted that reaction, but I wasn't going to give it to her. I had what mattered. Camilla leaning into me, silent now but conscious enough to know we needed to leave. The other women just stood there, stunned. No one said a word. I walked out, holding Camilla close, guiding her down the stairs and into the car. She didn't resist. She didn't say a word. Just rested her head on my shoulder and closed her eyes. And in that moment, all I could feel was a strange mix of anger and exhaustion. I hadn't gone there to fight. I went to protect. But somehow now I was the villain in their story. By the time we got home, Camilla could barely keep her eyes open. I helped her into the apartment, guided her to the bathroom, and held her hair back while she threw up. Her body trembled as the alcohol made its way out of her system. She looked pale and miserable, a far cry from the glowing, excited woman who had left just a few hours earlier. After cleaning her up and changing her into pajamas, I helped her into bed. I brought her water, left the light dimmed, and sat on the edge of the mattress, not sure whether to feel angry, relieved, or just sad. Around midnight, she stirred and sat up, eyes glassy, mumbling, "Where's my husband? My husband?" "I'm right here," I said, placing my hand on hers. She smiled, leaned forward, and wrapped her arms around me. "You're the best. You always take care of me." It hit me like a punch in the gut. Because in that moment, drunk, exhausted, and sick, she sounded so sincere. She kept repeating it. "My husband. You're such a good man." She held onto me like I was her anchor in a storm. Part of me wanted to feel good about that, wanted to believe her words were real and not just alcohol talking. But the other part of me couldn't shake the scene at Juliana's place. The way I'd been treated like an intruder, the way I'd been pushed, insulted, dismissed. For doing what? For showing up when my wife was in no condition to speak for herself? Camilla eventually fell asleep with her head on my chest, mumbling compliments between deep breaths. I stayed awake, watching her, my mind spinning. I loved her. There was no doubt about that. But something had changed tonight. Not just with Juliana, but with the way everyone seemed to see me. I wasn't the hero. I wasn't even the concerned husband. I was just the guy who showed up too early and ruined the fun. And no matter how tightly Camilla held onto me in her sleep, I couldn't forget how quickly her friends turned me into the enemy. The next morning, Camilla woke up slow and groggy, head pounding, barely remembering pieces of the night before. I made her toast and coffee, sat beside her on the couch, and didn't say much. She thanked me again for taking care of her and promised she hadn't meant to get so drunk. I just nodded, still tired from everything. But then her phone started buzzing. At first she ignored it. Then the messages started pouring in, one after another, and I didn't have to read them to know who they were from. She scrolled through her screen, her face slowly shifting from confusion to guilt to discomfort. I didn't ask what they were saying. I didn't need to. Eventually she looked up and sighed. "They're mad." I raised an eyebrow. "Because you drank too much?" "No, because of how you handled it." That stopped me cold. "Excuse me?" "They're saying you were controlling, that you embarrassed me in front of everyone, that you had no right to ban Juliana from the house." I stared at her, trying to process what I was hearing. "They watched you nearly pass out drunk on a couch and I'm the problem?" She winced. "I know how it sounds, but they said you were aggressive, that you made a scene." "I didn't lay a hand on anyone. I didn't yell. Juliana pushed me. She cursed me out in her apartment. and I calmly took you home." She didn't respond right away, just sat there, scrolling through more texts, more guilt crawling across her face. "They think you're trying to control who I hang out with," I laughed under my breath, "because I don't want the woman who assaulted me in my home." Camilla stayed quiet. The silence stretched between us like a wire pulled too tight, and suddenly I realized it didn't matter what I had done or how I had done it. To them, I was just the overbearing husband, and that label would stick, no matter how wrong they had been. Later that evening, I sat down with Camilla. We'd been dancing around the conversation all day, and I couldn't take the silence anymore. I needed clarity, not just from her, but for myself. "I need to know where you stand," I said. "Not them, you." She looked at me, her expression torn. "I know you were trying to help. I know I drank too much, but they're my friends, Lucas. They were just trying to have fun." Juliana shoved me. She called me controlling in front of everyone, and instead of apologizing or backing off, she doubled down. "That's not a friend. That's someone who doesn't respect boundaries, or you." Camilla flinched. "I know. She crossed a line, but she was drunk too." "So that excuses it?" "No," she whispered. "But banning her from our house, that feels extreme." I leaned forward. "What would you have done if the roles were reversed? If one of my friends got in your face, shoved you, cursed you out, and I just said, 'Well, he was drunk.' You'd lose it. You'd never let that guy near me again." She nodded slowly. "You're right." I softened my tone. "I'm not asking you to cut her out of your life, that's your call. But our home is supposed to be a safe place for both of us, and I won't allow someone in it who's shown they have zero respect for me." She bit her lip. "They think I let you control me, that I just follow whatever you say." "That's not fair. I don't control you, Camilla. I protect you. There's a difference." Her eyes welled up, and for a moment I thought she might cry. But instead, she leaned into me, resting her head on my shoulder. "I hate that this even happened." "So do I." We sat there in silence again, but this time it wasn't tense, just heavy, like we were both trying to carry something we didn't fully understand. And even though she didn't say it outright, I could feel it. She knew I wasn't wrong. But knowing it doesn't make it easier when everyone around you says otherwise. I've played that night over in my head 100 times, tried to see it from every angle, tried to ask myself if I overstepped, if I came in too forcefully, if maybe I should have just trusted Camilla to find her way home. But every time I replay it, I come back to the same image. My wife passed out drunk on a couch, surrounded by people who didn't care enough to notice how far gone she was. People who called me controlling for doing the one thing no one else in that room had the presence of mind to do: take her home safely. Juliana put her hands on me. She cursed at me. And still, somehow, I'm the one under attack now. Not her. Me. Camilla says she understands. She hasn't invited Juliana over since. But I can feel it. There's this tension now, this unspoken question hanging in the air between us, like she's caught in the middle, not sure if she should defend me or defend the version of fun her friends expect her to have. I get it. No one wants to be seen as the friend who lets her husband control her. But when did caring become control? When did protecting someone you love become something to be ashamed of? I never raised my voice. I never grabbed anyone. I didn't insult anyone. All I did was walk into a bad situation, assess it and act. Because I know my wife, I know what she's like when she drinks too much. I've been the one holding her hair back, cleaning up the mess, watching over her through the night. And now, because I refuse to stand by and let it happen again, I'm the bad guy. Maybe I'm too close to the situation. Maybe I can't see what everyone else is seeing, or maybe, just maybe, they're all wrong. So tell me, was I the asshole here? Or was I just a husband doing what he thought was right?